In this game, we will be mainly focusing on 4 key points. First, the opening principles. Second is the pawn structure. Third is the exchange sacrifice. Fourth is the positional evaluation, and many more. So what are we waiting for? Check your pieces. Punch the clock. Let's get started. So this is the game between Grandmaster Wesley and Grandmaster Daniel Sedzikowski. As we know, Grandmaster Wesley is from USA, formerly from Philippines, and he is now one of the top Grandmaster in the world. And Grandmaster Daniel is from Poland, and also a very strong Grandmaster. And this is the round 2 of the Gibraltar Masters 2019. And in this game we have e4 by Grandmaster Wesley and c5 by GM Daniel. So this is the Sicilian defense. And we have knight f3, a developing move, and knight c6, also a developing move. And we have d4, so trying to control the center squares. And here we have c takes d4, knight x d4, and we have knight f6, so attacking this pawn. At the same time, a developing move to the center, and we have knight c3, protecting the pawn. And also there's other way to protect the pawn by moving f3, but the most active move is knight c3 because this is a developing move also. As we know that especially for the beginners in chess, that controlling the center development is very important in the opening. So knight c3 is the most active and most principled move. And here we have e5, so this is the Svishnikov variation of the Sicilian defense. And after that we have knight b5, knight db5. So the plan is to go to knight d6, and of course there's a a known mistake by moving knight b3, because it will lead to inferior position by moving bishop d4, and this is pinning the knight at the same time attacking this pawn, and it's really hard to meet that possibility. So the knight d5 is very active also. So if you play bishop b4, then white can meet by moving a3 and as well as knight d6. So knight d5 is the most accurate move, and here we have d6. So he prevented that that move. So in this position, we have knight d5 by Wesley. So he is following the game between Grandmaster Caruana and Grandmaster Carlsen on their game on the World Championship match. So in this position, theoretically, the most popular move is bishop g5, and there are thousands of games in this move, and it's very logical because it pins the knight. Of course, it pins the knight, and usually this game leads to a battle in this particular square, this d5 square, and that's why there's a violation of moving to knight d5, and sometimes there is c4, and there are a lot of possibilities here, but in general that's the key plan that key plans revolve in this square and in this kind of position. So anyway, knight d5 is also very logical move, and this forces knight takes d5, because other move, of course, there's no way to other move cannot meet this knight c7 check, and that's very strong for white. So knight takes d5 is a quite forced move for the black, and then he takes d5, and in this position we have knight 8. So it's also they also following the game between Caruana and Carson. And in the game though, after some try of Carson in knight b8, he shifted to knight e7 because in the game, in the knight b8 variation, usually it leads to somehow inferior position for Carson. So therefore he decided to shift into knight e7, which in the match he had some advantage in the opening and the middle game. But knight b8 also is very good move. And after that we have a4. So this is gaining space. At the same time, the usual he is preventing the usual plan of black by moving um, a6 and then b5. So that's a very logical move, the move a4. And we have bishop e7, so a developing move, and preparing to castle. And here we have bishop e2 with the same plan. And black plays castling, and white also play castling. Of course, king safety is very important. And here we have knight d7 and bishop d2 by Wesley. And in this position, let's evaluate first the position. It is clear that black has a pawn majority in the center, and as you can see, and white has a queenside pawn majority. So especially in evaluating the position, the first that you have to see is the pawn structure. So after that you can see where you wanted to you create plan, and where you want to attack, what what kind of attack or plans that you wanted to make. So in this position, it's clear that black has plan, because of this pawn structure, to plan in the attack in the white king side, and because of this pawn structure. And at the same time, white has plan to attack in the queen side, and it's clear because of the pawn structure. So as you can see in the game, it happened. So after that, black plays f5. So the in especially in making plans, pawn structure is very very important in understanding chess. And after that we have a5. And also now we can see it's the a5 move designed to for space advantage. And after that we have f4. So this is the new move in the game. By the way, I wanted to emphasize, after the bishop d2 in the round 8 in the game, around 10 in the game, Caruana played b4. It's also very logical, with the same plan of attacking in the queen side and trying to create a pawn majority. And after that a5. So this is the same with the Caruana and Carson game. But in that game, the f4 is the new move in the game, in this game, because in the game of Carson versus Caruana, Carson played a6, and goes knight a3 and e4 with pretty the same plan that I have said, that because of the pawn structure. And Caruana created in that game created a pawn, pass pawn in the queen side, while Carson attacked in the king side, though that game eventually led in, into a draw. That's also a very great game. And so GM Daniel played f4, and Wesley played rook e1, so centralizing the rook. And we have knight f6 by Daniel. And here we have bishop d3. So this is the new move in the game, as Wesley said that this is the GM Daniel is now out of the book. So after that we have f3. So how you can evaluate that? You can post the position and try to evaluate if white will capture the pawn by his queen or by his pawn, or he will just play g3. Because if he captures, then is there any tactical possibility for black? And try to analyze the position at least 3 to 5 moves. So in the game, here we have queen takes f3. So Wesley saw, as he said, he was very happy when black played f3, though it leads to a sacrifice of queen. But he saw that only leads to a very good advantage for white, and that enough for a material and equally materially wise, that is equal. So after that, black played knight g4, so attacking the queen, at the same time putting pressure in this f2. So white has no better option than queen e4. So of course, if black will capture, knight takes f2, and that will be bad because of queen takes 7. So black is forced to play bishop f5. He's somehow forced to play, and in this position, you can post the video and try to evaluate how would white proceed in this position. So in the game, Wesley played queen takes f5. This is a very positional sacrifice. Somehow it has a spirit of dynamic, but though the plan is not to dynamically attack the king, but the control of the board, the placement of the piece is very good, especially this white bishop has no opponent, and the rook and the other bishop and also the knight is so active. So remember this, in evaluating the position, there are a lot of factors that you have to consider other than material. So this game is a very good advantage for black, and that the knight, this after that f3 knight g4, I think black has overestimated this position, and it's really clear that Wesley Saw has a better understanding in this particular position. So after that, rook takes f5, bishop takes f5, and a6, and Wesley Saw played you can pause the video if you want. What do you think white played? So Wesley Saw played here knight takes d6 and queen takes d6, and bishop takes g4 and queen takes d5 and bishop c3. So attacking this pawn. So now look at the position. The two bishops is very active, and this rook is also very active. At the same time, also this rook, and the placement of the pieces is so good for white, and that's enough that we can say that white has a great advantage in this position. And after that, we have bishop f6 and defending this pawn, and we have bishop f3, queen b5, and rook e4 by Wesley. And this is a very good move, as we can see later. aside from possibility of connecting this rook and attacking this, there is a possibility of moving this rook into a4 and penetrating here, and this is a kind of, I can say, unconventional move, because usually white will really connect this his rook in battering this rook. That is the usual plan, and especially if you have rook, but this the possibility of rook left in this position, it's quite unconventional. So after that, rook d8, and we have g3. So this move is a quite a super GM like move, even though that's very simple, but grandmaster usually they don't hurry the position. They have already the advantage, and they want to straighten the position, and of course the king safety. And g3 move also is the much better other than h3 pawn, and you can see later why the h3 move is not that good other than g3. So later you can see what I mean. And after that, we have g3 and queen c5, and now we have the unconventional rook move, rook a4. So our rook lift, so entering this open file, and you can see that Wesley is a very unconventional player. And how rook c4, queen e7, and now he now penetrates the black's position, and that's very dominating one. And rook d8 and rook c4, and as you can see, the position, black has no entry point. It's protected, everything is protected by white, and it's very dominating position, even though he is queenless, but positionally his pieces is so much better than the queen. And after that, e4. So, and it's somehow forced move for her black, because if he will not play e4, then this bishop is not useful, and somehow it's somehow just a pawn. So he is left with no choice but to at least sacrifice the pawn, and this exchange his bad bishop, and rook takes c3, and here we have g6. Of course, if he played queen takes f4, then it's really bad, the queen takes e4. So after that, we have g6, and we have white to play. What will you play? What's the most accurate move? You can post the video. So what do you think? So we have bishop takes b7, so that's a very accurate move for by Wesley. The idea is just that black queen cannot take the bishop, because he is still left with the defend. You have to defend this rook, right? So we have queen e1 check, and now we have king g2. If you can remember, a while ago I said that h3 is not the good move, because if we have played the h3 a while ago, then this pawn can be captured, right? So this g3 is a very deep move by Wesley. So, and of course the idea is he has the white bishop, and this is in the black squares and the pawn. So that's pretty supported the general idea that if you have the white if you have the bishop, your pawn must be in the different color squares. So, that's a kind the principle and general. So king g2, and rook takes c8, and rook takes c8, and king g7, and here we have c3. So already Wesley is preparing to march this pawn. At the same time, c3 is designed to defend this a5, and here we have queen e2, and now he's now already marching the pawn. The queen e2 is designed also to defend this pawn, and h5, so he's trying to attack the king of Wesley, his last resource. And we have rook c7. So after that we have h4, and his king is pretty trapped in this side, and we have a desperate move, g5, and bishop f3 by Wesley, and queen b5. And now how will you end up the game? And after that, GM Daniel resigned. So it's obvious that, quite obvious, the move is rook c5, so attacking both the queen and the pawn, and this position is too much for black, so GM Daniel resigned the game. So that was really a great game by Wesley, so and hope you have learned something from my discussion. And please remember those 4 key points. First is the opening principles, especially to the beginners and to the intermediate players. Remember the control the center, the development, especially remember this thing that controlling the center, you control the game, and that will give you an edge into your game. So second is the pawn structure, and pawn structure is very important because in making plans you have first to consider your pawn structure. And third is the exchange sacrifice. So chess is a very dynamic game. It's not just all about material evaluation. There are various factors that you have to consider, and you have to keep an open mind that anytime you can exchange your queen into the minor piece or the other major pieces, and that will help you improve your game. And lastly is the positional evaluation. As I have said, the chess is more than material evaluation. You have to consider the key squares, the placement of the pieces, the key open file and diagonal, and many more. So you have to improve your positional understanding if you wanted to become a champion in chess, to become a master. So I hope you have learned from my discussion, and that improves your decision making in chess. And thank you so much, and please don't forget to subscribe, and for more videos, for more updates. Thank you so much, and God bless.